Hi, welcome to my channel. I am going to be releasing my first free pattern. I have a written pattern on Ribblr as well as a visual picture slideshow on my Instagram, but this is going to be the video tutorial for these seals right here. So if you are interested in learning how to make them, go ahead and stay tuned. I will have the Ribblr pattern linked in the description as well as my Instagram if you would like to go through the slideshow instead. The Ribblr pattern also has pictures, but I thought if this was a little too complicated for people, they may want a visual pattern. Somebody commented and asked for the seal pattern. I updated it. I made it low sew so that there's not 5 parts to sew on, but just one. So this is in fact a very low sew pattern. The only part that you're sewing on is the snout. So everything else is combined. So if you are interested, I thought this would be a really cute little keychain or just a tiny make you could whip up pretty fast. With blanket yarn, these would probably be much bigger. As you can see, it's moderately big, but you could also make them smaller with a smaller yarn weight, like I'm using a weight 4 worsted. So if you used a small one, it'd be great for keychains. These would still be fine for keychains. Not that bad for a keychain. It's just a little big for my taste. So I think if I made these in like a really thin Caron yarn, it would be really nice. So you can use any, let's see. All right, let's go to supplies you need. I'm gonna pull up my pattern. I have my pattern pulled up. All right, so for this pattern, you're gonna need 2 colors of yarn. I'm gonna use blue as my main and white as my secondary. You're gonna need a 3.75 millimeter hook, and you're gonna need stitch marker, scissors, embroidery floss. I used brown for this one, black for this one. I'll probably be using black for this one. A darning needle, embroidery needle, safety eyes. I use 8 millimeter safety eyes for the size that mine came out. If you're using a different yarn and hook size, you're gonna have to troubleshoot what size eye to use. I use a lighter to secure my eyes, so that's optional, it's up to you. And I'm gonna use pins just to pin the snout in place at the end. So if you've got those, that would be very helpful for you to make sure that they come out even. Oh, and you'll need stuffing, of course. So where these little guys are hanging out on their cloud, the very first thing you're gonna do is start with the body. So for the body, let me unwind a little bit of yarn so it doesn't go crazy all over here. Step 1, you're gonna start with the magic ring. Chain 1 and single crochet 5 times inside the magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that you have 5 single crochets in the magic ring, we are not going to slip stitch to join. We are going to increase in that first stitch. So increase here. I'll do one more in the next for my first 3 stitches. Then add my stitch marker in 3 stitches back. And then we'll increase in that same one again. So we've got 4 so far. Then increase in the last 3 stitches of this round. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so pull the magic ring tight, and we have 10 stitches for round 2. Then I'm gonna take out my stitch marker, increase in this first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next, stop and replace my stitch marker, and then we're going to repeat that pattern. So it's going to be increase in the next stitch, single crochet in the following stitch. Repeat increase, single crochet all the way around till you have a total of 15. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I bet you guys can hear those pretty bird noises, can't you? That's nice. All right, so you should have 15 stitches at the end of round 3. I'm gonna pull my loop a little bit big, go ahead and grab my yarn needle and sew my tail in. Okay, I usually look for the biggest gap, which is usually right around where you ended. Find that biggest gap, push through a couple stitches. Oops, not that little one. Push up through this loop to the next round. Work in 2 or 3. Turn. Work back in 2 or 3. That's how I sew in my ends on the inside. I'm going to cut this one just so it's easier to see what I'm doing. But most of the time I just leave it inside. So I'm going to take out my stitch marker for round 4. Round 4 is just going to be single crochets. We're going to do 1, 2, 3. Add in your stitch marker and single crochet around for a total of 15. And then round 5 and 6 repeat round 4. So row 4 through 6 are all going to be single crochet rows, all going to have only 15 stitches. Now we have 6 rounds. We should be on 15 stitches for this round. So we're going to take out the stitch marker and start round 7. In that first stitch, we're going to do an increase. Next stitch, 1 single crochet. Replace your stitch marker 3 stitches back. And in the next stitch, we'll do 1 single crochet as well. So the repeating pattern on this one will be increase right here, 1 single crochet, and then the second single crochet. Increase, single crochet, single crochet. And repeat that to the end of the round, and you should have 20 single crochet. To start round 8, we're going to take out the stitch marker, do our first 3, replace the stitch marker, and single crochet all the way around. All right, so at the end of round 8, you should have 20 single crochet. We're going to go ahead and remove this stitch marker. And this is the round where we will be adding in the flippers. So do your first 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, replace the stitch marker. Let's do 3 more single crochet for a total of 6, 5, 6. All right, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, so for this one, we actually are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook, yarn over and half double crochet into the next chain. So your work should look like this right now. Then we're going to slip stitch into the last single crochet of the round, and your work should look like this. Then we're going to single crochet into the next stitch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 single crochet. And then we'll repeat this. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, single crochet in the second chain from the hook, yarn over, half double crochet in the next chain. Slip stitch in that same stitch, and your work should look like this. Then you should have 6 single crochet at the end. So 3, 4, 5, 6 for the same total of 20 stitches all the way around. These do not count as stitches. This one does count as a stitch, and this one counts as a stitch, but the flippers themselves do not count as stitches, so you would not count those in the following round. All right, and then we're going to remove our stitch marker and do an invisible decrease. If you do not know how to do an invisible decrease, this is how I do it. So you pull just through the front loop, don't yarn over, pull through the next front loop, like this, yarn over, pull through those two, yarn over, pull through the next two. All right, I'll show you on the next one. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. Then I'm gonna go ahead and replace my stitch marker because those are my first 3 stitches of the round. Next invisible decrease will be front loop, next front loop, yarn over, pull through those front loops, yarn over, pull through again, and that is an invisible decrease. Now here you wanna make sure you flip your flipper down, work in this stitch. So double check where your next stitch is, make sure you know. This is mine right here. I'm gonna put my hook right here and single crochet. Single crochet in the next one. It should look something like this. All right, so when you flip the flipper down, we got our little arm, his little arm. All right, and then we're gonna do another invisible decrease. 1, 2 single crochet, invisible decrease. Flip the arm down, well, flip the flipper down, find your stitch. Oops. Find your stitch, pull through. There we go, there's our second single crochet. So again, we've got both arms crocheted around. Next one should be invisible decrease. And then the last two will just be single crochet. This should give you a total of 15 single crochet for the round. All right, so your work should look something, here, let me move this yarn tail for you. Your work should look something like this. And flipped over, should look something like this. I'm gonna pull my loop a little loose, take my hook off, and now we'll be adding in the safety eyes. So I add my safety eyes between round 6 and 7 between the flippers. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 eye, and then 4 stitches across. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the placement of my eyes. Cutie. And I'm gonna flip my work inside out. Which looks kind of creepy, I'm not gonna lie. But we're gonna attach the backs of these safety eyes. Okay. So now we've got our safety eyes attached. This is optional if you are comfortable with doing this, or you're old enough to be playing with a lighter. Please don't do this if you can't. I'm gonna add some flame to the back of this safety eye. And then I have this little dot at the bottom of a bic, which presses it flat like that. So see what it looks like, the difference? Perfect. Do the second one. Press, release, give it a second to cool off, but these are what they look like now. Kind of creepy on the inside, kind of looks like a little ghost right now actually. Not hot anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and flip it right side out. And now our safety eyes are totally attached. All right, for round 11, we're going to remove our stitch marker and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to half double crochet in the second chain from the hook, half double crochet in the next chain. Then we're going to slip stitch in the same stitch. So your work should look like this. Then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 3, 2, 2, 3, half double crochet in the second chain from, oops, half double crochet in the second chain from the hook, half double crochet in the next chain, slip stitch in that same stitch, and your work should look like this. That's your little tail. Now, make sure you place your stitch marker on this one right here. Let me grab my needle, tip of my needle so I can show you. We're gonna place our stitch marker through this one right between the tail, okay? So if you look from the bottom, that's our little tail. All right, and then you single crochet all the way around. You'll be doing 14 additional single crochet. Only the second flipper will count as a stitch. Okay, you can just crochet around the arm. Should be pretty easy to get into those stitches. So this is where you should end on round 11, right before this flipper. We're going to be going around the flipper. This one counted as a stitch. This bit of the flipper does not count as a stitch. You see what I mean? So we've already worked into that stitch. This next one, where we have our stitch marker, we're going to remove it. And this time start the round with just a single crochet. Make sure you're not leaving any holes around the flipper if you can, as much as you can. Like I leave a little bit on accident, but we're going to go through, we'll cut a long tail at the end to fix that. And then this next one is going to be invisible decrease. Now this one's probably going to be the hardest stitch to get. So you want to find your next stitch. Let's find your next stitch. So this is your next stitch right here. We're going to pull through the front loop. Next one, pull through the next front loop. And then I usually have to tuck the flipper under, pull my tail tight, pull my work together so we have these two loops really close. Pull through those two loops, yarn over, pull through the next two. And that's going to be the biggest hole probably in the project that we'll go through and fix later. Then we've got one single crochet. All right, and then we're going to go back and add our stitch marker 3 stitches back right between the tail. Then it's going to be invisible decrease, single crochet all the way around. So invisible decrease, single crochet, invisible decrease, single crochet, invisible decrease, single crochet. And then we should end on an invisible decrease in this round. Invisible decrease, because we started with a single crochet. Then I'm going to pull my yarn a little loose while I work. You can go ahead and remove your stitch marker. Probably won't need it anymore. And let me not steal their cute little stuffing. I'll pull some more. So right now, your work should look something like this. This is the bottom. This is what mine looks like. We're going to go ahead and stuff the seal. Okay. Make sure that top part is, so I've got some more space for stuffing in there. You can stuff it as light or as firm as you like. I wouldn't overstuff these because it's so small that when you push these stitches out bigger, it'll make them look a lot bigger as opposed to like a bigger amigurumi. I'm gonna stop here. So my thickness, let me show you. So mine looks about that thick. There's still some give in there. There's the tail, the back looks like that. All right. So we're going to put our hook back in, pull tight. At the end of row 12, you should have 10 stitches. This is what it looks like afterwards. Then we're going to invisible decrease in the next stitch after we removed our stitch marker. And invisible decrease 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So double check you have 5 stitches. Well, here, let me show you with my needle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this one is one that's part of the last invisible decrease. So your work should look like this. Then I'm going to cut a moderately long tail. So I'm going to pull this much to sew in at the end. And this much to make sure I have space to sew all those little holes around the tail. Pull through my work. All right. So grab your yarn needle, thread it with your long tail, and we're going to invisible close. If you don't know how to invisible close, you're just going to pull through the front loop of all 5 of these last stitches. And then I'm going to pull this way because it kind of makes this a little bit more invisible. Hear those birds chirping, beautiful. All right, there's a little bit gappy there, so I'm just gonna fill it a bit. Then I'll go in, make my way over to the tail. Oops, threw that poor guy. Then I'm just gonna push my needle through, tighten those stitches a little bit, push my needle through here. I like to end in the middle of stitches so that I can hide my thread. Oops, it's a little, just whips around so fast. Let's go to the opposite side of the tail actually. Let's go right here. Pull through. This is how I tighten my stitches on my mini works, just to make sure. We're gonna pull through here, here, here. And in that one, this is where I've got my needle placed. Pull through. Go through these. Tighten that stitch a bit. Just run another way, just to sew in my ends. Then I'm gonna go into a gap. Pull through to another gap and stitch, or sorry, insert into that same gap, pull across the body, pull a little tighter than you have, cut your tail off. I squish mine to make that tail go back into the body so it's not showing, it's not going to come out. And there you go, you have your seal body. So here's the seal we're working on right there. Now we're going to grab some white for the snout. This is a very, very simple snout. So we're gonna magic ring, chain 1, and do 4 single crochet in the magic ring. 3, 4. Pull your magic ring a little tighter. 1, 2, 3, 4. Single crochet in my magic ring. And then in the first single crochet, we're gonna yarn over, pull through both, and that'll be our slip stitch. So we'll slip stitch to join this one, and then cut about that much more than your starting tail. And I don't need any more yarn, so I'm gonna put that back in my basket. I'm gonna pull through this tail and go back to my starting tail. Now I'm gonna pull my magic ring tight as I can, thread my yarn needle, and work from the back of this single crochet 4. Or work from the back of the snout with your yarn needle, and just do a couple cheeky little stitches. In the back I go, usually for this small, I just go through a couple times. Make sure you're not hitting these outside chains. I'm gonna go back, let's see. There we go, do 3 to the left, turn my work, just put it a little bit back to the right, trying to work over the same yarn to keep it in place. Oof. Need some pliers for this one. There we go. This tail I'm going to cut short, flush with the body, because I don't want it coming out around the edges. So now you've got work that should look like this. If you pull this tight, it should look like this. I'm going to thread my yarn needle with the second tail. And then I'm going to put my yarn needle into the back loop of the next stitch. Pull through, and then put my yarn needle in the center of the stitch we just came from. Okay, and sometimes the front loop's a little loose, so you gotta pull the back loop a little bit with your hands. But it creates this invisible seam around the edges where you can't see. See if I can pull you closer. You can't see where I was working. Now, we're not going to attach this to the face yet, so I'm going to pull my yarn needle off. And I've already pre-cut my embroidery floss. Oh my gosh. I cut about this much. It's usually too much, but I have a really long embroidery needle that I like to use because it's very sharp and easy to thread. So once I've got my thread flat enough, I'm going to thread that embroidery needle. You don't need to pull through too much of it. You want some working tail. All right, so for this bit, I know the white's a little hard to see. I hope it's not too hard. I'll try to adjust the colors so it's easier for y'all to see. I don't work on the chains at all. I try to work just around the chains. Okay, I'm gonna pull. You only need a short tail to sew, to tie at the end, so I leave about that much at the back. Pull it over to the side, and then sew over. So far this is what it looks like. Okay. Insert my needle back really close to this beginning of the last stitch. Pull over, end on the same one, repeat one more time. It's fine. Make sure it gets a cute little thick nose like that. Now I give it, ooh, my seal's a little mouth. So I'm gonna come underneath the left side and then go directly under the center of the nose. So far it looks like that. And then we're gonna come over under the, oops, right side, go through the center underneath the nose, and your mouth. Let me loosen this side a little bit, but your mouth should look like this. Little snout. All right, and then I'm gonna tie, let's see, I can pull my needle off. Gonna tie with a basic knot. It's a little tricky with these little tails, but I try to save on embroidery floss. One knot, switch hands with the knot with the tails, do a knot in the other direction. Oops. And then I switch one more time for a third knot, just to secure my work. Pull tight. Oops. I'm gonna pull these two together like that and cut really short. Probably use this embroidery floss for my next one, so I'm just gonna keep it. All right, and here is where the pins are gonna come in. So we've got our little snout and our seal, and we're gonna place the snout right between the eyes, about half a stitch to a stitch on each side. So I've got, make sure not to stab yourself. He's a little chunky, and these are just long enough for me to not get stabbed through the other side. All right, so I've got my pins attached to the seal. Perfect. Now I'm going to attach my yarn needle again to the tail, and I'm only going to be working in the back loops, okay? So we're going to go into the same back loop as the last one we worked, pick up a stitch from the body, go into the next back loop of the next stitch, like that, pull, ooh, little flipper's getting, then we'll go into the next one, pull, just take that first pin out. We're going to keep stitching into these back loops around the snout. Take this pin out. Let's see. Yeah, okay, just double checking that I sewed into that one. All right, and then this one. And the last one. So it should look like this. All right, and then I'm just gonna take my yarn needle, pull to the other side of the snout, insert it again, pull underneath over here, gives it a bit of a snout. Then I'm just going to insert my yarn back underneath the snout and into the body, out the back side, pull in tight. Let's see. I'll cut my tail, squish him so the tail goes back into the body, and your little seal is done. So there are lots of different colorways you can do with this, but they're so cute. I love them so much. The little tails, they're beautiful. Sorry for the stuffing all over them. I just love setting them and stuffing looks like they're sitting on clouds. I hope you liked this visual tutorial. It's my first try making one, so please be forgiving of that if I messed up. I'm trying to learn. If you would like a written tutorial, I have just released my Ribblr. I've opened it up. And this should be posted, actually. It should already be posted on my Ribblr. And I hope that you guys go ahead over there and follow me, because I will be doing a tester's call for my bear pattern. Anybody that's interested, I'm going to need quite a few testers because there are 4 different patterns. If you complete one, then I'll give you access to the second, so and so forth. So if you do all of them, you know, you have a chance to get all of them if you do them in time. I will be posting very soon about the bear testers, so I'll be doing it through probably my Instagram, my TikTok, and my Ribblr, and maybe a little late on here if I am still looking for testers. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that you guys have a fun time making this seal. It's a really quick, simple pattern. If anybody is looking for this pattern, please link them to one of my patterns. It'll be on Instagram, Ribblr, and YouTube, as I said. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you got all the way to the end, thank you for following. I'm almost at 400, and I appreciate everybody that's been so kind. I'm gonna keep trying to make videos, but I really wanted to learn how to make a free pattern, and I wanted to try to make a low-sew pattern for you guys that would be easy for the people that hate sewing. These are for the ladies that hate sewing, and the 1% of fellas, or ladies on their husband's account, as I have seen somebody say that they're just on their husband's account. I wonder if that is where my 1% of male followers come from. Thank you for coming to my channel. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Have a great one.